Good morning, everyone, and happy 4th of July. I'm so happy to be chatting with you guys this morning about meal planning for trips or vacations. It's one thing to meal plan for your regular everyday life, right? You know, generally speaking, when you're going to be home, when you're going to be able to make food, when you're going to be eating out. But it's much more challenging to plan food when you're traveling and when you're traveling with other people, because then you have to factor in the food that other people are bringing. You have to probably make larger portions because you're serving more people. You have to remember to pack everything because you don't just have your kitchen with all of your, olive oil and your spices and your garlic and the entire contents of your pantry and your fridge. Excuse me, I'm still getting over a little bit of a cold. So packing for a trip can be more challenging, but that doesn't mean that it's not worth it, and that doesn't mean that it's not doable. So I want to share with you guys just some helpful tips if you happen to be traveling around the 4th of July or later in the summer, or even if you watch this come like Thanksgiving or Christmas, because it will still be applicable then. So first you need to consider how long you're going to be gone and who you're traveling with, how many people, if there are any kind of dietary restrictions that you're going to be working around for yourself or for other individuals, because obviously those factors are going to affect what you choose to make. And as with typical regular meal planning, you need to first figure out what you're going to make. So source those recipes from your favorite websites, from your favorite cookbooks or food magazines, or wherever you like to get them from. Maybe it's like your old family index cards in an actual recipe box, which isn't too common anymore, but I love that. And you're going to pick some ideas. Pay attention to the serving size, because when you're traveling, you don't want to take too much, but you also don't want to not have enough. So think about serving size. When in doubt, go a little bit over, because you can always have a little bit of leftovers, but you don't want to go like way overboard and have tons of leftover food that's going to either spoil or just take up a lot of space. So think about how much you're going to need, and then you're going to work to figure out when you're going to have things. And this is a loose plan, but it can help if you're prepping food ahead of time and you're still going to cook it on your trip, or if you need things prepared in a different way. So if you need to leave with things frozen, and if you're going to eat them later, but you need them to not go bad, then maybe you could freeze them instead of having them in the fridge, if that makes sense. So also consider where you're staying, what kind of amenities there are, how much space there is, if you know those kinds of things. Obviously, if you're camping in a tent, you have very limited options. You probably have a cooler and a dry goods container, and that's probably it. But if you're staying with family or friends, then maybe you have access to their kitchen. Or if you're staying in a cabin, you probably have a kitchen. Or if you're staying in a hotel, you might have a mini fridge. So think about those things. Those are so crucial, because you don't want to be counting on being able to freeze things and then find out that you don't have access to a freezer, or even a refrigerator. So think about those things in terms of what you make, because if you don't have access to a fridge or freezer, then that's going to limit what you can take with you. Or if you're going to be gone for a while, then you need to think about kind of what order you're going to have things in based on how long they will keep. So it can be helpful to write that down, and I have a free printable meal planning toolkit that you can use for that. I was working on my own list when I was away from home and away from a computer and a printer, so I did mine on this little scrap of paper, and it just looks like a little spreadsheet. Kind of, I have the days of the week, and then I have the meals, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. So for mine, I'm planning on bringing muffins, and I know that if I don't have the option to freeze them, they're only good for so long before they start getting kind of gross. So I'm planning on eating those earlier in the week and then having frozen smoothie pouches and granola later in the week, because we do have access to a freezer and that food will keep longer. So think about kind of like the order in which you need to make food or consume food, and which things you want to make at home or prep at home before you leave, and which things you can make when you get to your destination. And then leave some room, if you're having community meals. That's why a lot of my dinner spaces are open, because I'm traveling with extended family and we share some food, and that's usually for dinner. So I didn't fill in all of those spaces because I don't need to provide all of that food on my own, but I want to leave room for it in my meal plan so that I don't forget about that. And then you can always, draw arrows and move things around. If you realize, I'm planning on making fruit salad, I'm gonna need to eat that earlier in the week, and that was just kind of a reminder to myself, instead of leaving it for later in the week when it's going to be all mushy, because fruit doesn't always keep super duper long. But then again, consider what you're going to make before you leave, because it's really helpful, especially for your stress level, to be able to prep some food ahead of time. But not everything can be prepped ahead of time. We are going to have tacos and I'm going to make guac, and I can't really make that ahead of time or it's going to get all brown. I know there are a whole bunch of internet tricks for how you can keep guac from going brown, but the best thing I found is just to make it and eat it when it's fresh. So I will be making that when we get there, but I'm also going to be making granola and packing some trail mix, and things like that can be prepped ahead of time. And so think about which things you can make ahead of time and then when, and kind of work your way backward. So think about when you want to make it, because again, you want it to last for your trip. You don't want it to go bad. And then consider how much time it's going to take you. Think about any other prep ahead instructions. I'm going to be making hummus and roasted chickpeas, so I'm currently soaking beans for that. So work backward on your timeline to figure out when you need to get things done. And you can always work in other things like packing and laundry into that too, if that helps you just kind of think about your trip as a whole and all the tasks that you need to do to prepare for it. And talk to other people and see what they're bringing, and make sure you're covering all the bases and not duplicating things or forgetting things. And obviously put together a packing list. I do that every time I travel because I take a lot of food with me because I love to cook. And it is the only way that I get to my destination and I'm actually able to make my food, because otherwise I would forget the oil or the honey or the spices or the almond milk or whatever it is that I need to pack. If I don't write it down, I will probably forget to pack half of it. So make sure you write down what you're going to take with you, and just have a really solid idea of what you need to pack. And that's also when meal prepping can come in handy, because if you make the things ahead of time, you have fewer individual things to remember to pack. For instance, because I'm making granola here, before I leave, I don't have to remember to pack like the oats and the honey and the oil and the nuts and all the individual pieces. I just have to grab the bag of granola. So that's a lot easier. But again, some things are just not realistically going to be made before you go, which is totally fine. But a lot of it is just considering your plans and the different variables that will affect what you can make ahead of time. And depending on when you're getting home and what your situation is there, whether you're going right back to work, whether life is going to be super crazy and chaotic, I would also recommend making some food, whether it's the same food that you're taking on your trip or other food. Doesn't really matter, that's totally up to you. But I would recommend making some of that food and leaving it at home. So leaving it in the fridge if it'll keep in the fridge if you're just gone for like a couple days, or putting it in the freezer so that when you get home, you do not immediately need to go to the grocery store. You do not immediately need to cook food, because you're going to be needing to rest. You're probably going to need to unpack. You might need to do laundry. You might just need to sleep. So I like to alleviate some of that pressure and make extra food to have at home waiting for me when I get back, because it's just like a couple things off my plate and I don't have to worry about it. I can go to the grocery store on like my normal grocery shopping day, or go the next day, and it's just so much less stressful, you guys. It is amazing. So I hope that helps you guys. A couple last things, just some real practical like tools, things that I like to use. Again, it depends on how you're traveling. So we're traveling by car, and I can take like a big cooler with us. So think about that too. Think about what you can actually take with you. If you're flying, you're definitely more limited in that. But I love to use like glass Pyrex for mine, because then you can just pop it in the microwave and take everything with you, and they're leak proof with their lids and everything, and it's just fabulous. And you know, they come in a bunch of different sizes. You can make a really big container, but I also love reusable plastic bags, and they come in a ton of different sizes. There's cute little ones and there's really big ones. These are from Grove Collaborative, and I love them. They're so nice. I use them for everything, from like carrot and cucumber slices to trail mix to popcorn to granola, to like roasted chickpeas. I use them for non-food things. I have one actually in my toiletry bag for all of my shampoo and conditioner and stuff. But they are just so handy, and so I highly recommend packing some of your food in them and then packing some extras, because then if you need to portion things out, or if you have a little bit of leftovers of something else and you need to wash the bowl, you can put it in there. Or if you're sharing food with other people and they give you something, like there's so many reasons you could need extra little bags. And they're really easy to pack because they fold flat. So that can be super helpful. I will put a couple links in the notes for those, just so that you guys can find them if you're looking to use something like that as you travel. But yeah, take into consideration a lot of those variables: where you're going, how long you're going to be gone, what kind of place you're staying in, and the amenities they have, who you're traveling with, and the kind of plans that you guys have, if you're, you know, eating out or anything like that. The kind of shelf life of your food, like what things you might need to eat sooner, or how you might need to pack it if you need on some more food for mine. But I have loved chatting with you guys about this. If you have any other ideas for things that you would like me to talk about, let me know, because I would love to do that for you too. I hope that you have a wonderful and happy 4th of July, and I will talk to you guys all again soon. Okay, bye.